Are you struggling to send commands to a child process in Node.js? You're not alone. Many developers face this challenge, and today we're going to unravel the mystery of how to communicate with your spawn processes effectively. I totally get it. It can be incredibly frustrating when you think you've got the right code, but it just doesn't work as expected. You're trying to send a command to a program, and it seems like your Node.js application is just ignoring you. Trust me, this is a common issue. Let's dive into the specific question at hand. One user asked, how can I send input to a child process created with spawn in Node.js? They provided a code snippet where they spawn a program and attempt to send a command, but nothing happens. Sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So, what's going wrong here? When you spawn a child process, it doesn't always behave like a terminal. Sometimes, the way you send input needs to be adjusted. Understanding how the child process handles input and output is key to solving this problem. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a pro tip that can save you a lot of headaches when working with child processes in Node.js. To send input to the child process correctly, the user should ensure that the input ends with a new line character. This is crucial because many command line programs expect a new line to process the input. Next, the user should listen for the output from the child process. This can be done by setting up an event listener for the data event on the child process's standard output. Additionally, the user should ensure that the child process's standard input is not closed prematurely. They can do this by avoiding the use of child.stin.end immediately after writing the command. Finally, the user can test the setup by sending multiple commands in sequence. This will help verify that the child process is responding as expected. Fun fact: did you know that the first version of Node.js was released in 2009? It has come a long way since then, and so have the ways we interact with child processes. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative approach shared by another user involves using the exec function from the child process module. They create a child process and handle input and output within a promise. This method allows for executing commands without requiring human input. For example, they demonstrate executing a command like cat.index.html or interacting with the AWS CLI using AWS configure profile dev. This method effectively manages command execution and output. Now, let's shift our focus to a different response. An alternative approach, shared by another user, involves running a child process using Node.js. They suggest spawning a new process and writing commands directly to its standard input. They also mention that if the program requires multiple inputs, you should send all expected lines before ending the input stream. This ensures the child process receives everything it needs to execute properly. Let's check out another perspective from a different user. An alternative approach suggested by another user involves saving your input code into a file using the file system module. They recommend creating a C++ file and compiling it using the exec file function from the child process module. This method compiles the C++ code and executes it, allowing you to pass input from a text file. The output can then be viewed in the terminal. Here's the pro tip I promised. Always check the documentation of the program you're trying to communicate with. Understanding its input requirements can save you a lot of trial and error. And there you have it. With these tips, you should be able to send commands to your child process successfully. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more troubleshooting tips and tricks.